Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Christopher Aaron here. Welcome back. It's April 3rd, 2019. I want to update you on what is happening in platinum and palladium, some exciting moves. I've had a lot of emails and requests on this topic. We covered this exactly 6 weeks ago. So if you want to see what we were talking about then and what we're going to talk about now, you can pause and go back and watch that video and then jump in right now, because I think this is going to be a pretty major opportunity setting up over the next few months, but also for the next several years. There's going to be different twists and turns with it. So welcome. We're looking at the other quote-unquote precious metals. And I just want to let you know that Klaus, the super dog, is here. He's up in his lookout tower at this point, keeping guard as we're speaking. So I will have another walk in the woods with him shortly, and we'll talk about things tangentially related to the markets on that walk. Let's bring up the platinum chart. Now, if you're new, this is the big picture for platinum. Platinum has been very unloved, overlooked by most over the last several years, and for due reason. So we're bringing up the 20-year chart here, basically, 2000 through the present. The important points to keep in mind. We were talking about this 6 weeks ago. Once again, the multi-decade support zone here between roughly 650 and 750. We're calling that above this zone. You can notice how this acted as resistance back here almost 20 years ago. Broke through in 2003, acted as support, right? Can we see that right here? The incredible run up to the peak in the year 2008, the crash of 2008. Look how this level served as support, a rebound, and now we've been in this nice defined magenta color, this long-term magenta channel here coming down for the last 7 years. Now, something is very interesting getting ready to happen here. So we've had this 7-year downtrend, and I said 6 weeks ago that there is a meeting, there's a convergence happening here in platinum between what? A multi-decade support zone and a 7-year downtrend. And we can see that kind of right in here. Look at the number of hits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a bit of a false breakout, 6. So this is the 7th attempt in 7 years at breaking a trend of sellers who had been showing up here for whatever reason. You know, the bottom line is, why were they selling? Well, maybe mine supply, maybe manipulation, maybe people needing to sell to invest in stocks because stocks have been the hot asset class. Truthfully, I really don't care. As someone who tries to be an educated speculator, I'm just more concerned about what is going to happen rather than trying to identify the 10 or 20 reasons why it could be happening. And of course, those reasons are inherently insufficient. I recognize that in myself. No one can know all the reasons, but what we can know is actually what is happening. And I think that's really the most important thing. Anyway, back to my point here. Look at how this is getting congested. So platinum is caught between a rock. The rock is this multi-decade support zone, and a hard place, the 7-year downtrend. I can't see this well enough, though, from this view. So let's zoom it in here. Last 7 years. Look at the clarity of that downtrend. Really nice magenta. Once again, there's that multi-decade support zone labeled. There was that false breakout from 2018. Look at what is happening now. We were talking about this just 6 weeks ago, guys. Go back and watch that video, because we'll talk about this later, but this is not just going to be a one-time opportunity, and it's not just only going to be about platinum and palladium. There are going to be opportunities like this across the commodity sector if we study this stuff, I think, for well into the next decade with what's happening with commodities. So, look at what's happening here. We've broken, finally. This looks legitimate to me. There is additional resistance here, though. I don't think platinum is quite ready to skyrocket quite yet. We have another blue downtrend that we can get when we connect these last several highs, including the false breakout. That's coming in right now, just under 900. Look at the band of black resistance here, going all the way back to 2016. So we're bumping up against that now. Look at how many times this served as support and now resistance. But, even that is not close enough. So let's zoom it in one more time and just look what happened. Now, we were talking about this. Look at this triangle. Look at how this is resolved here. We were talking about this on February 20th. That was the date of the last video that we talked about that. And we'll do a little recap in a moment, but just look at what has happened. We were talking about this triangle formation. Look at how it gave a 2-day little false breakdown there. Markets try to take the least number of people with them as possible when they can, especially if you're using too much leverage. And then boom, the short-term rocket higher, getting rid of some of the people along the way. And now we're getting back here into this. So I would say the way this looks to me, we are probably not going to have another significant pullback here in platinum before, we could come back down a few percent, perhaps back down to 840 or 850 or at 874 today. But this thing is getting ready, mark my words, it's getting ready to bust higher through this resistance zone here shown in black. This one dating all the way back to 2016. And the target, the next logical move for platinum is the confluence of this resistance zone here. We can see this in black right around 1025. But I actually want to draw that lower because I think sellers are going to come in here for platinum. They're going to sort of, you're still going to have some former buyers from these peaks who take this opportunity when we bust through this resistance here just under 900. They're going to take the opportunity to sell most likely at a lower peak. They're just going to want to get rid of their platinum here. So I would say you've got about you've got a safe $100 move here setting up in platinum. Not necessarily the best thing to do for physical platinum because then you're paying for premiums on both sides. You don't really want to do that, but you can look at the PPLT ETF is a decent way to do this. You can go with futures too, but you got to be really careful with that leverage, and we'll cover that in just a moment because if this backs off first, you can get wiped out before the real move comes. So I like to trade these things unleveraged when possible. And of course, then there's a separate part of one's portfolio that can be geared toward the long-term holdings, accumulating platinum anywhere here in the mid or low 800s, I think is a very good idea for a multi-year hold. So they're really two slightly different strategies geared toward the same thing. There's room for both those things in here. So initial target, and let's just, not forget what we're talking about here. I mean, that initial target, I think, is barely going to be scratching the surface from the long-term perspective here, where platinum could go just to get back to its 2008 highs. This is going to take years and years to happen, but I don't think it's going to happen in a straight line. My sense is after this target is hit, there will be a significant, perhaps even a full retracement, a major retracement into 2020, and this market will get ready to round up for another round, and then we will see a move up to this 1200, and we'll talk about higher targets when that comes. So the bottom line here is platinum is looking very good from a long-term perspective, but I don't think it's going to be just an easy hold, and I do think there's going to be opportunities for trading this in both directions over the next several years. Now, let's look at Palladium. Okay, we were talking about the other half of this trade. We were talking about this as a spread trade if you go back to the video on February 20th. Palladium, and I was saying, so the idea for Palladium, even though we had higher targets back in February, I said the target zone here for this move was equal to this 61.8% Fibonacci extension from the multi-decade breakout point here at 1100. It was equal to that on the lower band, and then an amplitude measurement, 950. Look at the 950 here in blue, matching this major amplitude of basically the entire basing process here, giving us the upper possibility for this target. So my target still hasn't been met yet. I would still think that this target is going to be met. That's my best guess. But you got to remember what I was saying on February 20th. I can maintain a higher target as a technical analyst, but also someone who's looking at risk versus reward. Remember what I was saying. I was saying I have no interest in buying Palladium at this point. In fact, my interest was in shorting Palladium. I was saying from a risk to reward standpoint, what one would want to do is go long platinum, but short Palladium. Okay, so remember that. Now let's zoom it in here just for the last 3 years and look at this. Man, look at that decline. You're talking about a week and a half, Palladium giving back about $275 in about 8 trading days. This is the sign. This is the signature when a market is doubling like this in just a few months and then giving back almost $300. This sort of parabolic move followed by impulsive fear type reaction, sell off here. This is the signature, ladies and gentlemen, the signature of a market that is in the process of putting in its final top. I don't want to go out on a limb and guess that this is the final top yet. There's no need for that. I can look at this type of move and say this is not a market that I want to chase higher. That's sufficient. You don't have to have a pinpoint exact target for every single market. There are dozens and dozens of commodities and other markets that we can follow. Sometimes it's okay to just say, in the grand scheme of things, I would rather be short Palladium, getting into some of these highs than want to buy it. Now, is there a trade opportunity moving higher? Perhaps on a very short-term basis. Once again, I'm just saying I'm not interested in it. I'd rather be focusing on other things. What I am interested in was that spread trade. So I want to update you. If you took that opportunity on February 20th, as we were talking about, and then let's update it and see what could be the potential here going forward. So we were talking about both platinum and palladium. And remember, it was long platinum. In other words, we think platinum is going to go higher, and short palladium. We thought it was going to go lower. The prices on February 20th of these two metals were $834 per ounce on platinum and $14.62 on palladium. So let's fast forward to today. Where are we? April 3rd. We are at $874 for the close on the COMEX today on platinum. That is a gain of 4.8%. And palladium is down to $13.78. Remember, we were short, so that is a gain of 5.8%. Now, that's, a decent little gain, but the thing to remember, we want to average this out. So 4.8 and 5.8 averaged out gives us 5.3. But remember, this is in 6 weeks. Okay, and this is unleveraged, which is how I generally recommend doing these trades unless you want to dial it in much more short term. Now, the risk, if you're going to put leverage on, is that we can see that, for example, with the palladium. Remember, palladium moved higher first, so you would have gotten stopped out if you were on leverage, and then it moved lower. So that's the problem with using too much leverage, and certainly you can do it. You just have to take this analysis into the much deeper short-term level. It can be done. But my point is, if we have this opportunity and we're looking at this and we're talking about 5.3% in 6 weeks unleveraged, I don't know, back of the envelope, what does this average out to? If you had an opportunity like this once every 6 weeks, I didn't do the math. I think it's somewhere around 40 or 50% at the end of the year if you can do this every 6 weeks. And these are the types of things that I'm interested in. It's these real kind of almost obvious setups, but that I think are being overlooked in this market because everyone is focusing on the opposite, right? Everyone had become very, very negative on platinum, and everyone was just loving palladium. And sure enough, we can plot this as a ratio, which is what we were doing last time. So remember, this is the ratio now. How many ounces of platinum does it take to buy 1 ounce of palladium? Going back for 4 decades. This is a pretty nice sample set that we're talking about. And the major things that we were talking about 6 weeks ago are this multi-decade resistance zone, basically above 5 ounces. It's telling you that platinum is too expensive versus palladium. And all the way down here, where we had only seen 2 data points telling us that palladium was too expensive versus platinum. And we just looked at that down channel, real nice down channel to kind of end that move. And then we were zooming this in 6 weeks ago, and let's update that. Notice that blue wedge pattern. I always look for these. These are real high probability patterns if they occur at a confluence. You know, it's one thing to see this pattern forming somewhere. It's another thing to see it forming, leading into a multi-decade support zone with the denominator, palladium, having a parabolic move. So this was screaming, and look at this. This is exactly what you want to see if you're a technical-based analyst, technical-based trader. A clear, look at that, the break, and then boom, the snap, the impulsive type move away from the final stages of this in favor of platinum. That's what we're talking about. We're talking in favor of platinum now. And I can just sense, trust me, we're going to be trading this kind of thing in the new service, which is coming out shortly. I'll have details on that in the future coming up here in this video. But we're talking iGlobal Analytics. That's going to be the name of the new site. And I've received a number of messages from many different people on this, and I can sense there's this human sense. It's this FOMO, this fear of missing out on this trade, as if, oh man, we missed it, right? Platinum's 5% higher. We saw a parabolic breakdown in palladium, so we missed it. We missed the opportunity. Look at the surge in this ratio. And what I want to tell you is to take a step back here, say no to FOMO, get rid of this, learn the process, get good with the process. This is something that can benefit you throughout your entire life, no matter what market it is that we're talking about. It doesn't have to be platinum and palladium. It just so happens this is a very obvious opportunity which is setting up right now. But the bigger point, if we zoom this back out, is to start using this type of analysis across the markets. Get good at analysis like this. Consider it an investment into your own education, your own financial future, both the learning and the doing. Get good at stuff like this and see as these opportunities are setting up, and there's no fear. Then there doesn't have to be any fear of missing out, because we can bring this home. We can look at stuff like this, and we can sit back and wait when nothing presents itself, and then we can wait for these really obvious opportunities. And I'm telling you, so this is the same chart we were just looking at. If you understand what we're talking about here, if you believe this analysis, you have not missed this trade, because this trade is going to have years and years and years to move in 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of pattern to bring some value back to platinum versus palladium. We could talk about the dozens of fundamental factors that'll be going into that. Substitution in the auto industry, jewelry substitution. Perhaps there's even some monetary component that comes back to platinum if there's an inflationary environment. All sorts of stuff like that is going to be happening over the next decade, perhaps over the next 2 decades. This could be a trade. We come back to this. We look at this, these series of videos, for example, and for guys who got into that over the last several weeks, congratulations. But we could be looking at this as sort of a trade that sets up every 3 to 6 months on these swings over the next 10 to 20 years. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So never think that you've missed the one single opportunity. I'm telling you, learn the process, learn the type of analysis, learn it for yourself. If this type of video helps you, great. I'm happy about that, but make sure to learn a system that works for you. That's the bottom line. So I just produce the stuff that works for me here, and I hope it makes some sense to you. I want to let you know about the services that are coming out where we're going to be doing this kind of thing. The one that I was talking about here, this is coming in the future. It's called Global Market Intelligence. We're going to be covering all these commodities, energy and the industrial and precious metals, as well as the stock market, bond market, and the major currency cross pairs. We're going to be doing analysis like this, and basically just publishing the exact trades that we make here for people where this kind of thing makes sense and you want to follow with our trades here. There is a link below. This is not available yet, but make sure to sign up to receive the notice of when this launches. It will be coming. It will be coming fairly soon. Just please have some patience. There's a lot of stuff that has to go into putting this together. So click there to receive the notice. Right now, I do work with individuals, just to let you know, by voice and by email. If you are doing this kind of thing, or if you're planning to invest a large amount into platinum based on this type of analysis, and you would like my opinion on strategies that could work for doing that, or anything else for that matter. I work with individuals. I don't take any commissions from any platinum dealers or palladium companies or anything like that. I just look out for the best interest of individuals. So you can reach me on the consultations tab on the iGold Advisor website. I have a link to that below. The present service, which is available on the monetary precious metals, we're talking gold and silver, as well as the gold and silver miners. We also cover the US dollar and the stock market, but from the standpoint of a precious metals investor. So this is everything that a precious metals investor needs to know from a technical standpoint at this moment of time. The future service is going to be involved in trading all these things that are not specifically involved in gold and silver. So thank you for tuning into this week's broadcast. I hope that this makes some sense. The takeaways, once again, are that I do think platinum is setting up to be a major opportunity. I would say you want to look to get in on any weakness now, literally over the next several weeks. As soon as we break that resistance zone that we've seen just below 900, then you don't want to chase this thing. Then it's time to stand back and look to see as those targets come in together just below that $1,000 level. You don't want to be chasing that move until then we get a sizable pullback, like I was saying. And on the palladium side, if you're sitting on a lot of palladium, congratulations, because you probably have a profit, unless you bought it after our last video came out, in which case I think you need to be really careful, because there's no need to be chasing a parabolic market higher. There's simply no need. There are infinite markets out there. Why not find a market that is basing, that's moving sideways for a while, and that's getting ready for that move? Do not chase those markets higher. Thank you, and I will see you this time next week.